This is The Professional Stepdad, a place where we share stories, strategies, and ideas for men just like you to help answer that one important question: how can I be a better stepdad? All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of the Professional Stepdad podcast. I'm your host, Franco Zavala. I wanted to go on a little bit of a rant this morning. No real specific item that we're going to be discussing today. I was planning to lay out a few things that I was going to discuss for the rest of the week, but a question came up last night and I wanted to address it now while it was fresh in my mind. And since I was thinking about it while I was riding my Peloton bike, I figured I'd just make this quick video to kind of share with you my thoughts on what I felt about this question that was posed to me late last night. So first, if you have not watched the welcome episode, I suggest that you do so you can kind of get a gist and a layout of what this show is going to be about, who's it's directed to, who's it going to benefit, and just kind of like an all-around blueprint, right, of where I'm going to be taking in the direction of the show in general. Okay, so the question that was asked to me last night was, so yes, my episode 1 is all about self-reflection, about doing the self-work, trying to figure out why you react a certain way, or why you tend to raise your voice, or you tend to panic, or you tend to get overly aggressive, or maybe you shut down and you disappear. Whatever happens to you when you get put in a stressful situation within your family environment, why do you do what you do? What is triggering that to happen for you that is not contributing to the overall growth of your family, right? So for me, mine was I withdrew from my family and my wife, and I wanted to be alone. I didn't want to be around everyone. And I was very much not in a depressed mode, but I don't want to talk to anybody, leave me alone for weeks mode, right? So I have been doing that with every relationship that I have been in up until this point in my life. So for the first time in my life, when I actually sat down and did the self-reflection and I wrote out the specific things that I'm actually doing as a man, I realized very quickly that that withdrawal that I would do with my wife and my kids was something that it was like a reoccurring thing that happened within every relationship that I was in, even with like friends, right? So by doing the self-reflection, I learned that this all stemmed from my mom and then my mom's dad and them growing up, and what would happen when they would get in mad or upset and how they would withdraw. So then I started thinking back to my childhood, and boom, voila, there it was. My mom would get into a fight with my father. I would hear it, of course, because, I'm a kid in the house. And then my mom would shut off for a few weeks at a time, and you couldn't talk to her. And all of her answers was already one syllable answers. And I inherited that unconsciously. And then I would do it in my relationships. So by doing the self-reflection, that's what I took away from it. But that wasn't the question necessarily that was posed to me. The question that was posed was, I've done my self-reflection. Franco, I have done my self-reflection, but I still can't seem to connect with my stepkids. Okay. See, so right there, that is a great question. So then I answered him back, or just really, I wanted to ask him one more question on top of that to kind of see which direction he was going, right? So the question that I asked him was, okay, you're doing the self-reflection. How long have you been doing it? And part B of that is, how long have you been focusing on what your stepkids do? Like, meaning, what are their habits? How are they reacting? How are their days? Like, have you taken the time, and almost like a reporter, right? Like a reporter on a scene in the back, and they're taking notes so they can ask the questions later, or they can refer back to the notes when they write the article, right? As stepdads, we need to do that within our family. We need to be paying attention to what the kids are doing and how they're reacting, and then taking not only mental notes, but physical notes on their overall, self image, if you want to call it, self, like why they do certain things, or what are they prone to do, or what are their habits like within the home, or what are some of the phrases that they constantly say. If you watch episode 1, you hear me talk about my daughter Emma and about how she's always constantly trying to convince herself that she's not a good decision maker when in reality she is, right? So So how long have you been doing it? And how much work have you been doing on your kids, right? So he said he's been doing it, as far as a self-reflection, he's been doing it for about 2 weeks now. And he has not really taken the time to sit down and watch the habits of his children in the home. So then I responded to him back, well, then you got to give it time. You have to have a little bit more patience for it, right? You cannot get the results that you're looking for immediately. That's not the way this works. You have to put in the time, energy, and effort and the grueling hours behind the scenes before you can ever take it to market, right? There's a little business thing where before you can ever take it to market, you have to do all the work before day one in the market, right? So I reminded him that at this specific time in history, there's never been a better time. There's never been a better time to be working on you. There's never been a better time to be working on your family. There's never been a better time to understanding the specific love languages within your home. There's never been a better time to take the time to set aside a day that's specific for one child in your home and dedicate a day to them doing the things that they want to do and talking to them about what they like. But here's the problem. You're doing the self-work, you know what you want, but because you haven't just, and we're talking about a little bit of work here, okay? Because you haven't just taken a little bit away from what your children are doing daily, you can't properly connect with them, right? For instance, my son, he's 10, and one of the worst things I could do for my son is to take his electronics away and put him in his room alone, because my son he loves that one-on-one time, right? And he responds best to that one-on-one time. So when I want to punish him or when he gets in trouble for doing something, the worst thing that I can do is close the door, leave him in there and tell him he can't do anything, because it will not work specifically for my son because he doesn't respond correctly to that way of punishment or that way of talking. So I know that if I want to get my son to do something, I've got to go in and I got to sit down and talk to him, and I got to explain to him why it's important to me that he does X, Y, and Z, and how it's going to be beneficial for him if he does this, how we can earn this back. Does that make sense? But I would have never known that without doing the self-work and by taking the notes and just literally just watching my children and going, okay, what are they listening to? What show are they always talking about? What's their favorite subjects in school? Do they have boy problems? Something real simple like my son in Fortnite, and this is a game that he loves. Like all these little tiny things will add up later on down the road when you're wanting to make that connection with them, right? But there's never been a better time than now to do it. You ain't going anywhere, right? You're not. Unless you're an essential person in this world, you're at home right now, working from your office or your kitchen, or for some of you, your basement, and you're trying to, you're finding your escape zone so you can sit and focus, which is totally understandable. But by first doing the self-reflection is great, but then also doing just a little bit of work right now while you're working on you to just figure out the little tiny idiosyncrasies to your children that will act as seeds in the soil that will begin to grow over time. That was hot. That was good. I like that. So that's what I told this gentleman. His name's Steve. I'm not going to say his last name, nor will I ever share anybody's last name unless they allow me to, because I'm going to have them on the show. But Steve, self-reflection, amazing that you're doing the work, man. First and foremost, congratulations to you. You took step one that most people will never take. Most men will look at self-reflection, immediately get a feeling of the way they think self-work is, or self-help, or however they phrase that, personal growth and the negative feelings that they have towards it. Dude, I used to be so cynical. Guys, I am that guy that hated personal growth, that despised self-help, that made fun of people that were doing it, right? I was that person because this is how I was raised. I was raised this way. I was raised to believe that you don't need any help. You can do it yourself, which is completely wrong. Totally wrong. So, but again, remember, I was that guy. And God forbid I wanted to be like connect with my children or my girls, and then now I'm struggling with I'm the man's man. Like my dad raised me to be a man and would always do things that were manly and try to get me, and say things like, things, crazy is that things that I still say to my son, which I'm working on personally for myself, because I don't have this figured out yet. I'm still working on me, and I'm 10 years into this, right? So you're 10 days, Steve. You got to keep going. You got to do that little work on your kids and try to figure out this little tiny things that will help you connect with them when you need it, right? So plant the seeds. For my son, I realized that connecting with him, the best way was to sit down and talk with him and explain to him why it's important and how to earn things back. And that attention that I would give him one-on-one had so much more of a response than it would have if I would have just locked him in his room and got real pissed off and did nothing. I hope that makes sense. So that's the little rant I wanted to go on today. You're doing the self-work. If you watched episode 1, or maybe you're already doing it, maybe you're like 2 years into self-reflection and still not working for you, my advice to you is keep going. Keep doing the little work. I'm going to lay out routines and ideas, and I'm going to be sending you guys free stuff on like how I do things on a daily basis that works for me, that will hopefully work for you if you put the time, energy, and effort into it. And you are patient, and it will show up for you randomly on some Idle Tuesday. That's how it works. So don't rush this. But there has never been a better time than today to work more on you, more on your family, right? If you have harmony with yourself, if you have harmony with your family, you will have, by default, harmony with your work. You will start to love what you do and do what you love. Trust me, I know. Remember, I'm telling you this from experience. I'm telling you this from 10 years of in the grind, working every day on this, trying to figure this out. And thank God my mentor 10 years ago told me to start this path. Because when he told me, I called him and complaining about life. My kid's doing this, my partner, my wife is doing this, and I don't understand why the whole world hates me and all the families again. I called and complained for a good 10 minutes. And when I was done complaining, he asked me if I was done. I said yes. And he said, I want you to do me a favor and do self-reflection for 6 months, which is tough because 6 months is a long time in the world of children and family. 6 months is like 6 years easy. But he asked me to do one specific thing, which is what I'm going to ask you to do today. Stay committed to the consistency of self-development and self-reflection. Stay committed to the consistency of self-development and self-reflection, and I promise you that it will pay off in time when it's ready. You have to plant the seeds. You have to water the soil. You have to watch the plant grow. That's it. So again, stepdads, if you're struggling with this, if you're struggling with, and here's a blanketed statement, if you're struggling with anything within your home right now that is not in harmony with where you want it to be or how you see a vision of your family to be, it's simply because you are not doing the self-work on you first. I'm telling you, if you work on you and you start changing the way you think, act, speak, react, all that, it's funny, everybody else seems to change with you, right? Remember, negativity can only attract negativity, right? Positivity can only attract positivity. Positive can't attract negative and vice versa, right? But if you're not training right here, if you're not training your mind, when something small happens, it's going to look like something big and it's going to throw a monkey wrench into your new family and you are going to walk out the door. Don't. Take the responsibility. There's never been a better time than today to work on you. Take the responsibility and be the leader within your home that I know you want to be because you're here, because you came here, because you're listening. So this is my little rant. So I'm going to call this episode 2, but I'm going to still build on this. I like these little daily rants because they help remind me that I'm still in the grind just like you. I'm still working just like you. But I am so happy and grateful that I put in the time, energy, and effort and work in the past. So for right now, in my present, I'm able to deal with all the obstacles that are coming at me because they're coming, but I'm mentally prepared. I've got a good teammate. I've got a great relationship with my children. No obstacle is too big. It doesn't mean no obstacle is not difficult. I mean, every obstacle is difficult, but no obstacle is too big because we do things together. But it took me time to get here. So Steve, self-work, self-reflection, just keep writing those notes, keep studying you, trying to figure out why you're reacting, all this other stuff. Just do the work. And second, put a little bit of time into trying to figure out, so I think you said her name is Samantha. So look at Samantha. Samantha is 16. She's a teenager. She is interested in a lot of things right now. Without saying anything, pay attention to what she's doing, how she's talking, what she's listening to, the show she watches, and then do a little bit of research on those things so when you do talk to her, you can connect to her on her level and speak her language. So then when she hears you, she can actually resonate with you, as opposed to what most children do, right? Which is, God, you're old, or you have no idea what I'm talking about. My son always says, Dad, did you used to do this back in the day? Son, I'm only 41. What do you mean back in the day? Anyway, so that's my little rant today. I hope you guys liked it. If you like it, share it, like it, subscribe to the channel, all that other fun jazz that people do on YouTube and on this podcast where I'm posting on SoundCloud and iTunes. But share this with men that need to work on themselves. And if this is you, watch this 100 times over until I get into your skull, until you start doing the work. And I guarantee you, the ball will start rolling. But you got to be patient.
Quiet on the set, please. Thank you, everybody.